Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a sports betting perspective. With pro handicappers Alex B. Smith and veteran sports writer Jimmy Murphy. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Monday, January 17th, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith with you, maybe momentarily as well. Andrew McInnis, ready to break down a Monday NHL card. Happy Martin Luther King Day, MLK Day, a holiday, especially for those in the United States, although people in Canada are not immune to not knowing, of course, the impact of Dr. King and the history and the legacy. So even though it's not the official holiday here, we certainly acknowledge that, although it kind of feels like we share the holiday, especially when you're like us, you work from home and you got a bunch of sports to watch during the day, like our MLK Day usually offers, with multiple NHL games in the afternoon, multiple NBA games, college basketball throughout the afternoon. So lots to keep us entertained, and lots to keep us hopefully filling our wallets with cash and being able to make some profits from what we're seeing throughout the day in sports action. In the NHL, we've got one game that started already. It's in action right now, the Red Wings and Sabres. The rest of the games still to come. So pretty much we're going to get through the remaining 7 games here on the Monday NHL card here for this Martin Luther King Day. Let's get it started. We will begin with Minnesota and Colorado, one of the games of the day without question. Looking forward to this one. It's going to start at 3 p.m. Eastern. Colorado minus 240, home favorites in this one, 6.5 the total between these two teams. Of course, Colorado, they've been finding ways to win, but not always easily. You look at recent performance. Obviously, it's been a great run. Their last 10 games, they're 8-2. The losses, of course, were to Nashville, back-to-back losses to the Predators. That's been the only team that's had the Avalanche's number recently, but they sweep Arizona in back-to-back games, although the first game was certainly not easy for Colorado in that minus 700 favorite range, and they ended up winning that game in overtime by a score of 4-3. The Avalanche getting healthier, which has been big. Still without some injuries, though, on some key players on the blue line. Up front, they're certainly healthy. But Bowen Byram, Ryan Murray, a couple of defensemen out for the Avalanche here today and moving forward. As far as Minnesota goes, they've won 3 straight games following a 5-game losing streak, which was their season high in terms of a losing skid. But they've bounced back to win 3 in a row against Boston, Washington, and then a big 7-3 victory over Anaheim on Friday night. Still Eriksson, Brodin, Spurgeon, and Talbot out. So that looks like we're going to still see the same crew that was missing in action for the last few games for Minnesota, also unavailable for them here in this game this afternoon against Colorado. Finally, a Colorado game stayed under the total in the last game. It was that 5-0 win against Arizona, snapping this incredible run where every Colorado game is essentially going over the total. Like I always say, that was a streak I was riding, and I don't usually drop out of betting something until I lose 2 in a row. So in this case here, what I'm going to do is jump right back on the over here between 2 teams with lots of firepower, 2 teams that have certainly been terrific offensively, 2 teams that have definitely struggled a little bit defensively and with their goaltending. I think it's fair to say both of these teams have given up some goals lately, the Wild and the Avalanche. I think we'll see a lot of offense here in this game. As far as the side goes, I wouldn't even hate anyone maybe taking a small flyer on Minnesota. We have seen Colorado, win a lot of games close, not exactly blow teams away lately. And you're talking minus 240 to minus 250 with Colorado against a Minnesota team that's pretty good themselves. Seems a little high to me. So at this price, I have to sprinkle something small here on the Wild. I think it's just a little inflated. And let's be honest, Colorado's been inflated from a money line standpoint for some time, in my opinion. We saw minus 700 against Arizona Friday night, barely win the hockey game. So definitely hard to find value in a bargain right now with the Avalanche. Alex, we'll start with you here. Wild and Avs should be a good one.
Yeah, if I was just playing strictly off numbers, I would have to be going with Minnesota. Like I said, as a 2-1 dog, you're not gonna get that very often, and I think they match up fairly well with Colorado, despite the series history with the Avs winning 7 of the last 10 meetings. I think this is a Wild team. Like I said, they're in good form now, winning 3 in a row after having that long losing streak. These are the kind of games that really mean a lot to that organization. They've got to really stand up tall if they want to make a run. to try to win the Central, you got to beat teams like Colorado, and then to beat them at home, that's definitely would be a huge 2 points for them. But I'm going to just stay with the totals as well. I like this first period over. Now, obviously, we've seen it go up to 2, which is actually fine with me. Grabbing a plus, $1.05 price as opposed to laying 160, 170 with the 1.5. If your book allows you to bet it, I would go with both teams to score. You can find that around plus 150 or plus 155. I think scoring should be pretty easy for both of these teams. Should go over the total 6.5 as well. And I think if we do see a high scoring game, next game we see lined with Colorado, might actually start seeing some sevens for that full total.
Yeah, you definitely might. By the way, 4 of the last 5 head-to-head between Minnesota, Colorado, 5 of the last 6, I should say, have gone over the total between these two teams. We'll see if that carries over here into today. Talbot's, as far as I'm concerned, out again. I believe so. So it's probably going to be Kaapo Kähkönen once again in net for the Wild, who's actually got decent numbers, 7-2. 2.56 goals against average, 917 save percentage. Boy, that's going to be put to the test today against this Colorado Avalanche team, especially with the game being in Denver. We're talking about Colorado that for the season, the Avalanche in terms of offense on their home ice, 4.67 goals per game on average on home ice. So they nearly average 5 goals per game at home, which is insane. Andrew McInnis is with us now. Andrew, welcome in. Minnesota, Colorado. What do you like here?
Yeah, good to be back here on the show with you guys. And it's hard to, Ian, it's just hard to argue. It's hard to argue goals, and more goals here. The Colorado Avalanche, one thing about them is that you start to look at some other really good teams in the league like Pittsburgh. We'll talk about them later on in the show. And the difference between those two teams is that Pittsburgh doesn't need to score 4 or 5 goals to win a hockey game. And, I think that the law of averages tell us that, hey, Colorado should start, slowing down a little bit. Screw that. They haven't. I mean, like you said, that strategy you've talked about for years. If a streak gets broken, don't just go off it right away. Try and keep riding it for at least 1 or 2 more games. That's kind of what I see here as well. But to be honest with you, there's not really much I love in this game besides hoping to get an in-game over spot. That's kind of where I wanted to look. Nathan McKinnon over 4.5 shots is a spot I've looked at as well. We saw him get 8, 7, 6, 5, and all kinds of numbers like that over his last several games. So those are kind of, I've noticed a lot more lately with these prop bets and the totals we're getting in 6.5s. You could just find a couple guys to get a point or to get over 1.5 points, or and DraftKings offers a lot of that great stuff. So if you don't want to worry about getting to 7 goals, you can still get, Nazem Kadri to score a goal or all these different props. So ideally, guys, I'm approaching it like this. I'm going to do what Alex recommended to me to do a while ago, which was to wait a few minutes to get a better first period price. And I'm going to do the same thing with the full game total. I'm hoping early start, we can get 3 or 4 minutes into the game. I can get a better price on 1.5 first period, and hopefully the same thing with the full game over.
This is the Alex B. Smith special. Wait 5 minutes, wait a few minutes at least into the first period. And you're always, you're hanging on to the edge of your seat basically for the first 3-5 minutes of this game saying, please don't score, please don't score, please don't score, with 2 goals, that can score goals in bunches, and 2 goals that can, 2 teams that can sometimes give them up, especially lately. But sometimes you got to take that risk if you're going to get a better number and a better price on a bet that you like. And that's oftentimes what Alex will look to do. So, and that's definitely something to consider, is maybe look at a better number and better price in game. Yeah, Nazem Kadri, what can you say? 49 points in 32 games this year. Absolutely insane what he's been able to do for the Colorado Avalanche. And yet
I had him to score a goal in that Friday game, Ian, and he scored the shootout winner. I was like, give me a real goal. It couldn't count for a winner for me.
Exactly. The shootout goals, unfortunately, don't count. But no, he's been terrific this year for the Colorado Avalanche. No question about that, on that second line center spot all year. So very impressive. Nicholas Aube-Kubel is one of the guys that's one of the surging scores right now, believe it or not, for the Avalanche, and he's just a third line winger for them, which again speaks to the kind of depth that the Avalanche have right now. Should be a great hockey game with those two coming up next hour with the Wild and the Avalanche. All right, we got the Los Angeles Kings, San Jose Sharks, California rivalry battle here. Even money both sides, 5.5 the total, shaded to the under in this one. The LA Kings continue to play some really good hockey at the moment, although I always a little bit shaky about their road performances, 7-8, but they did cure that the other night against Seattle, who are just can't get out of their own way right now. But still, LA with the 3-1 win over Seattle, fourth straight win. Now this team on a 6-1 run in their last 7 games. It's been impressive what we've seen from the Kings. Some concerns today is that, they did add, I believe, Adrian Kempe, last I checked, to the COVID protocol list. One of their, top 2 centers here. He's played well this year for the LA Kings, that he'll be missed 24 points in 38 games for them. It's definitely not something you want to see. But I still lean LA here. I have to. I mean, they're the better team right now. San Jose's lost 2 in a row to good teams, Penguins and Rangers. No shame in that. But to me, I said it before, the Sharks to me beat the really weakest of the weak teams. And that's been what they've done since really the middle part of December. The wins were Philly twice, who've been scuffling, Arizona, one of the worst teams in the NHL, Buffalo, and Detroit. Those have been the victories. Those have been the teams that San Jose has been victorious over. I just think when you look at it, and this is the way Alex and I felt about it Saturday when we talked about the Kings and the Kraken. It just felt like, even though LA's been a little bit more spotty with their performances on the road, that it felt like still it was a pretty cheap price to back what we thought was the superior team and the team in better form at the time. This kind of feels like that same kind of sentiment in my mind. So I would only look LA here, even money, -110 in that range. Alex, Kings and Sharks.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, this is the Kings team now. It's kind of rounding back into some decent form, and I mentioned it too with San Jose in these last couple of games. I thought these were true barometers to see where they're going to kind of shape up as far as being a contender in the West. Granted, playing 2 teams in the East, but 2 of the best in the Rangers and Pittsburgh. They end up losing both of those games, so now you got to turn around and try to get things rolling against a rival. A home start, or early start. Both these teams are kind of familiar with early starts as far as, Western Conference teams go. So that shouldn't be much of a factor. And right now, just laying at a pick and price, I would just go and back LA here as well. This might be a team I start trying to ride this streak with. I've been on them in 2 of these last 3 games that they've won. So I'll take a shot here again with LA.
All right, LA right around even money and -110 here against San Jose. Of course, San Jose is going to give James Reimer a chance today. He's been confirmed in net. The play and the quality of his play just fell off a cliff coming out of the Christmas break. He was really, really scuffling. I mean, some really ugly performances coming out of the break, and he's had a great season going into the break. But coming out of the Christmas break, he had that 7-goal allowance against Arizona. He gave up 6 to Pittsburgh, got pulled in that game that they lost 8-5. In Pittsburgh, and then gave up another 4 spot in a 6-2 loss to Detroit. So Reimer's had some time to maybe, hit the reset button, recalibrate. We'll see if he bounces back, plays better today, but we'll see if the break and the mental reset, if you will, if it helps him here today, taking on the LA Kings. Andrew, what do you think here, LA, San Jose?
Look, the thing with San Jose Sharks right now is that, I think they're an analytical person's dream, because they create a lot of chances. They've got guys that are in front of the net constantly about to score goals. If you're an XG number type guy, you're looking at some of their games and wondering, why were they not closer in that game? Why did they not squeak out a victory in that game? And to me, that's why when you're an analytical person, you have to be able to look at the game and understand that it's just not happening. And to me, that's the case with the San Jose Sharks right now. Look, Ian, this hasn't made my card, but it would be LA or pass for me in this game, especially with the odds we're getting in this one. I think San Jose is a lot more talented than they've been showcasing lately, and that kind of worries me when they're going to jump out of what they've been doing. But LA, they've started to light the lamp a little bit, and that's good for them. I'm just not so sure they can kind of maintain that for long either. So it'd be LA or pass for me. But I'll tell you guys, I worry about San Jose because they're a team that should be a lot better than they're doing right now, and they just can't bury chances. I'll tell you what, guys, I've learned my lesson lately. It's funny because just a little quick rant. I have a theory. I take a lot of overs when 2 teams that aren't very good go against each other, and it's worked for me quite a bit. I have small play right now. Actually, the Buffalo game, that's not going too well in that over. But when you look at teams like San Jose, I'm starting to recognize that they're just going to play it to the under because they struggle to score, so they have to tighten things up defensively. It's not going to be a track meet game. So it's kind of like that old saying, like, bet the highest total over and the lowest total under. You hear that a lot in the NFL. And right now, we're kind of starting to see that a little bit. I mean, these 5.5s are actually staying under, and the 6s and 6.5s are going over. So just a quick little note there. I mean, it's frustrating, but you could pull up Money Puck and you could pull up, natural stat trick and all these websites, but the analytics can only take you so far if these guys aren't putting the puck in the net.
Of course, and that's what we've seen with many different teams over the last few years, where the expected goals is just remarkably high, and it just doesn't correlate to what they're actually producing offensively. And San Jose's 78 shots in their last 2 games combined. That's a lot of rubber fired at the net and at opposing goaltenders. But what do you have to show for that? You're shooting blanks right now. And Bob Bugner's saying that basically after the last game. We're all snake bit right now. And usually you'd want to see evidence of them, breaking the slump offensively before backing that team. Someone that's not in an offensive slump, and that leads me into a goal-scoring prop that I like in this game, is someone Andrew's familiar with, of course, from his Montreal days, Phillip Danault. Believe it or not, 5 goals in the last 6 games for Phillip Danault. He's got his offensive touch back again. He's finding the back of the net. He's getting opportunities. We all know what he does at the other end of the ice defensively, a stalwart defensive forward. But right now he has his offensive mojo back again a little bit. He's plus 400 to score in this game for a guy with 5 goals in his last 6 games. That is a must price.
That's a great deal.
Must bet prop at that price, in my opinion. A plus 400 on Phil Danault tonight, this afternoon rather, for the Los Angeles Kings as they take on the Sharks. And not only has he been scoring, but you've seen the shots and the opportunity and the chances as well increase for him these last few games during this little role that he's put together. He's had the last few games, Danault has had 6, 4, 2, 2, 2 shots on goal the last 5 games for the LA Kings. So, sometimes when you look at the goals and you say you want to bet the player that's scoring a lot of goals, but you also want to see that they're getting the chances, they're getting the shots. He's getting them right now for the LA Kings. So, yeah, definitely at plus 400. That looked like a really good price for Phillip Danault to score here for the LA Kings in this game. Speaking of Danault and Montreal, we're going to now talk about Phillip Danault's former team, the Montreal Canadiens, taking on the Arizona Coyotes, hockey's version of the Toilet Bowl, the Losers Bowl, whatever you want to call it right here. Arizona minus 130, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this one. I made the case last night with our good friend Morency on his show, talking about maybe Montreal feels like, hey, we can finally win a game here. It's finally a team they feel like they can probably beat. And I could only take Montreal, especially now that they're a plus price. I'm not laying anything with Arizona. You can forget about it. That's just not going to happen. The problem is we might see Caden Primo here in net today for Montreal. And this guy just hasn't played very much hockey. And when he has been in the net, the results have been middling, to say the least. 3.64 goals against, 904 save percentage, 1-2. He's either going to start today against Arizona or tomorrow against Dallas, because this is a back.
He's confirmed.
He's confirmed now? Okay. Yeah. So it tempers the enthusiasm a little bit because he just hasn't seen the net a whole lot. I'll tell you right now, it still would lean Montreal here. It's just a little bit concerned about whether he will be as sharp here for the first start he's made in quite some time. I'll say this about Montreal. Yeah, it's the Laval Rocket posing as the Montreal Canadiens right now. It seems like with the lineup and with who's in on a regular basis, and they are still, Toffoli, Gallagher, Edmondson, Jake Allen on IR, Paquette, Paul Byron, all out. They're starting to get a little healthier, though. That's the good news. You at least see Jeff Petrie back, Romanov's back, Sherratt. Christian Dvorak missed some time. He's back. So starting to get a little bit healthier here going into this game, but still obviously very much shorthanded. I just feel that Montreal has not been one of those teams where they've lost not because of a lack of effort. They're just outmanned. They are just, they're just facing teams with better rosters right now at the moment. But the work ethic and the level of compete for Montreal, I still think it's been there for them. Like even in the Boston game, 5-1, that was just, things conspired against them. Boston took advantage of their chances when they got them. Montreal had chances, couldn't take advantage of them. That's the way it was. Florida game, they battled the Panthers on New Year's Day pretty tough for a large part of that game. The Chicago game, very winnable game, pretty back and forth game, and Chicago ended up pulling it out in overtime, 3-2. So the effort has been there. And I think Montreal is going to look at this and say, yeah, we can finally win a game. I don't buy that Arizona's trying to tank or Montreal's trying to tank. These are teams still with some players looking to show that they can be NHLers long term, be in this league, and have a roster spot. I just think here Montreal's going to look at it and say, we've played Boston, we've played Florida, we've played Chicago, we've played Tampa, Carolina. They've played some really tough teams lately. This is going to be the best chance for a win that they have. I'm definitely strong lean Montreal. I don't know if I'll take it with Primo and net, but let's just put it this way. Montreal or pass. I'm not laying any sort of price with the Coyotes as favorites. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Alex, what do you think here? Montreal, Arizona.
Yeah, I don't want a piece of the side of either team. And you make a great case for Montreal. They've played a lot of tough opponents, so taking a step down in class might be much needed for them. But on the flip side, you look at this Arizona team that they've been been able to get a couple of wins. Mentioned about they beat Chicago, beat Toronto, and they hung tough in that first meeting with Colorado, taking them into overtime in the shootout, losing 4-3. Then they bounced back and kind of return to their normal form, losing 5-0. But some tough teams they've played as well, and maybe they feel the same thing that, hey, we got this team coming in from the East Coast, and we can get a win on our home ice. Kind of an odd start time for them as well. So you can make a case for both sides. I don't want any part of other sides at all here. I would look at the total over 5.5. I think these two teams might be kind of geared up because they know that these are 2 points that should be relatively easy in their minds as far as the rest of their schedule goes. So that might turn out to be actually a more spirited affair than people would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Karel Vejmelka's confirmed in net for Arizona. And your guess is as good as mine, what you're going to get from him. He absolutely stood on his head in a shocking upset against Toronto last week. And then he did what I was kind of expecting him to do in his next start. Go back to Karel Vejmelka, of not the Marty Brodeur type. 5 goals allowed in that very next start against Colorado. So, and he's had a pattern of that. Look, he's a young kid. I think he's definitely shown some flashes of, being maybe a goalie that could play in the NHL down the road consistently, but that's the problem. He's inconsistent still. He had that shutout against Winnipeg, and then Vegas shelled him for 7 goals in the next game. He had the great performance against the Leafs last week, and then he gives up a 5 spot in the next start that he had against Colorado. So that's the issue with Vejmelka. Which one is it going to be here? Does he bounce back? Or is he, because his numbers still overall for the year, when you look at it, they're middle of the road, and it's because he's had some good starts, he's had some good outings, and then he's had a lot of times when he's been lit up as well. 3.27 goals against and 906 save percentage for Vejmelka entering this game. So we'll see which version of him shows up in between the pipes this afternoon for Arizona. Andrew, what do you think here? Habs Coyotes.
Look, guys, I haven't come on this show in a long time and really felt confident giving out a pick on the Montreal Canadiens. I actually am today. And I'll tell you, it's very weird because the more information being released about the Canadiens, with Josh Anderson now being officially confirmed back, several guys, looking like this lineup looks more normal today than it has in a very long time.
Yes.
Hoffman, Suzuki, Evans, Drouin, Dvorak, Anderson, Lekkonen. I mean, there's guys out there that should be out there, and it's starting to look like the Canadiens again and not the Laval Rocket. And let's be honest, the Canadiens weren't that good in general before, but you're starting to get some guys back. And sometimes people say when you get a player back, it might not be good right away. This, to me, is not the time where that would be applicable. Anybody back is good for the Montreal Canadiens here. Look, and I get what Alex was saying. I mean, it's very true. You could argue case in point for both sides. Thinking, hey, we could get up and beat this team. I get it. But I'm going to go on the side today where I do think that there's been 3 straight games for the Coyotes where they've been absolute barn burners, just electrifying games. And I'm not going to use the word letdown because first of all, that word gets thrown around too much with handicapping, but especially when it's 2 teams as bad as these two teams are, there's no such thing as a letdown. But I will say that Vejmelka, what he did in that first game against Colorado, I can't see that happening tonight. There's some injuries and protocol COVID stuff going on for Arizona. So the number has gotten better, guys, as the days gone on. And more guys have been announced out for Arizona and more guys have been announced in for Montreal. So I think everybody's just so down on Montreal and they're so excited from what they saw from the Arizona over the last couple of games. People are actually the money is actually coming in, guys, heavy on Arizona right now.
People are laying a price with Arizona. Yeah,
I
you
can't
gotta
believe I'm
actually
saying
repeat
this.
that sentence
Yes.
sometimes to actually believe it and let it sink in.
I can't. I mean, I just locked in. I believe it was plus 130 on the Montreal Canadiens against the Arizona Coyotes. I mean, or plus 115, 120.
I was going to say, if it's that high, I'm betting it. No, I don't care what the situation is with Primo or anything else for Montreal. If I ever saw a plus 130 in this game, I'm taking that.
But plus 115 or 20 though is still pretty good. So,
yeah.
And nobody can call me a homer because I haven't given out a pick on the Canadiens in like probably 3 months. So I'm going with the Canadiens tonight, guys, at the underdog spot. It's at 4:00 Eastern.
I think if there's ever a time to take them and look at, and certainly from a price standpoint, it's tonight with Montreal here in this. And you're right, Arizona played Colorado back-to-back in Toronto, two of the heavyweights in the National Hockey League, and now you play Montreal. So let down, or is it what Alex says? They're fired up because, hey, they're like Montreal, and they say, hey, we can beat this team. We can get a win here today. So it's very, very interesting handicap. I find sometimes these terrible games involving two bad teams, they're oftentimes the most fascinating games to really look at and dive into and try to come up with some sort of reasoning or logic to support either team.
I do have to say, Alex, remember when I said last time we were on the show together that Montreal would find a way to choke that game against Chicago? As much as I was mad about how weird that final goal was, it's not like I was surprised. You know what I mean? Like, was it offside? Right. Was it? Who cares, really? They found a way to lose again. And I was on this show, and you know, I try to be like you, Alex, because you're very real with your team too. And so it's very funny for me to come on here. And I pretty much said, like, hey, the Habs are going to stick around with the Blackhawks, but they're going to find a way to lose. And lose.
And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, no doubt. So I'll be keeping an eye on this game, believe it or not. I know Minnesota, Colorado, the much better game will be going on at the same time, but I'll be keeping an eye on this to see how it's going with the Habs and the Coyotes here.
This will be the first game I've had a bet on a Habs game in a while, Ian. Usually I'm just watching as a fan. So now I'm actually watching as a fan, and I need them to win for my money. So
there you go. Exactly. It's not just a fan rooting for his team. Now you're rooting for a winning wager as well. That's the big difference. All right, final game this afternoon. That is, there's actually 3 games tonight as well, but the final afternoon game on this Martin Luther King Day slate of NHL action, we've got Chicago and Seattle. Even money, both sides, minus 110, 5.5 the total in this one. Look, Seattle's doing everything they can right now to finally get back in the win column, and nothing is working. Dave Axtell said prior to the LA game, we've got to really, really tighten things up, tighten the belt, really play a conservative brand of hockey, and hope we can squeak out a win right now. That's basically what they've reverted to, and they really did against LA. Unfortunately, they lost that game 3-1, but they really didn't give the Kings a whole lot in that game. They only gave up 21 shots on goal to the LA Kings. Like I said, it was a very low event game. There were not a lot of great scoring chances. There were not a lot of shots left and right. There was an extended power play that Seattle had in the second period of that game. But 5-on-5, there's not a whole lot going on in that hockey game. And Dave Axtell, I think the quote here was, look, with us struggling the way we are, this is kind of the way we've got to try to get through this right now. At the end of the day, we need to win hockey games. I see the areas where we can get a little bit more out of our group. We can give a little bit more until things turn and offense starts to come easier. We're going to have to give it more on the defensive end. So what's he telling you right now? We're not scoring consistently at the moment. We're finding ways to lose, whether it's, a 4-3 game or a 2-1 game. We've got to really dig in defensively, help out our struggling goaltenders, and both of them have been struggling. Drieger's been a little bit better. But boy, Grubauer continues to have a season from hell, in my opinion, for the Seattle Kraken this year. And they're just basically, I think, reverting to we got to try to commit to, trying to really tighten it up and try to win a low-scoring battle at the moment. And Seattle tried it Saturday night against LA and still wasn't able to have success. On the flip side, you got Chicago here entering on a 4-game win streak, beating Vegas 2-1, the game where Fleury got his revenge against the Golden Knights. Was magnificent in that game. They beat Columbus 4-2 after that, and then back-to-back home wins against Montreal and Anaheim for the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll see if they can carry that over here into this game. And Patrick Kane starting to rev it up again. 7-game point streak for him and 9 points in those last 7 games for the Chicago Blackhawks, which is definitely good to see. We don't have goaltending confirmations yet here. We do have Grubauer actually confirmed for Seattle. Nothing yet for Chicago. There is a little gut feel to me, and obviously Alex knows his team very well, but a gut feel that maybe they rest Fleury today. I don't know why. It's just, I think, something that I think might potentially happen. But regardless, at the price that you're getting right now, it's Chicago or nothing for me with Seattle. Seattle's got to show me a win before I'm ready to back them here. And I am going to make it an official play here. Chicago -110. Hopefully Fleury's in net, but even if he's not, Seattle's not exactly firing offensively right now. Grubauer's had a tough year. He's not making the key save when the team needs it. I just think it's at this point, Chicago -110. Seattle's got to show me a win before I'm ready to stop going against them at this point. Alex, what do you think here? Blackhawks, Kraken.
Yeah, this line seemed a bit off to me, and I think, if anything, I would actually be more confident with Kevin Lankinen going today as opposed to Fleury, who had already been getting 6 starts in a row. Yes, he's coming off of a shut. I want to start burning him out a little bit. Then things start getting messy if you got to rely on Lankinen a little bit more. Let him be the number 2 guy. This is a great spot start for him, kind of an odd time. So I'm going to take a shot here with Chicago on the money line, but I also like this first period over a lot too. This is a great price. You've seen $1.15, $1.20. I know I was seeing as low as $1.10. So you can shop around and find the best price. But that's a really good number for teams that is 2nd and 4th overall and giving up first period goals, each with 1.1 goals scored. So it just seems to be right now these are 2 teams that you can bet on to get some things going early. Maybe they find a way to make those adjustments late. That's what the Hawks have kind of been doing, shutting things down in the later periods. But I think they find a way to win, and I think we see at least a couple of goals scored in that first period today.
Yeah, exactly. Chicago's been one of those teams lately where goals have come in the first period, and then they've kind of tapered off later on as the game has progressed. Andrew, your thoughts here, Chicago and the struggling Seattle Kraken looking every bit like an expansion team, unlike Vegas a few years ago.
Yeah, Operation Fade the Kraken. I'm going to get that hashtag trending, guys. One of these days, I'm telling you. It's actually insane how long it took for us to start seeing some of these prices start to come in against the Kraken. They competed for a long time against some decent teams, but it's really starting to show. And they dealt with some injuries too. But, there's teams like Ian. Remember in the summer when the Ottawa Red Blacks, you could bet on against them every single week in the CFL and make money pretty much? That's what some of these teams are turning into. And the Seattle Kraken at a good price is something that I will probably bet against consistently, especially in a spot like this against a team that's playing well and has some confidence right now and playing some big games. That's kind of the only thing for Chicago. It's played some big games. But, I'm looking at them. I'm looking to keep fading the Kraken and maybe even their team total under because I just can't see them scoring right now. I think maybe the full game under because this could be an opportunity where a lot of people think we're going to see a Blackhawks team that's always in over games and trading goals, but they're against a team tonight that can't really score. So, yeah, of course, I'm not backing the Kraken. I'm fading them if I'm playing this game. Also, he's asking for it. We got to give a shout out to Elliot. Happy birthday to Elliot. A lot of loyal viewership in our audience here. So
happy birthday, yeah, definitely to Elliot. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate everybody for tuning in. And Cheshire Cat's asking about some prop recommendations for the Canadiens game. Look, I'll say this. I've said it again before. I'll say it again. The Canadiens might be the worst team to bet goal scoring props on. Ian, I want your take on this because to me, they're great because you get good plus prices, but it's also not very good because there's no consistency with them. I mean, the great news is you don't have any players in the 100s. Every single player is in the 200s. I mean, Nick Suzuki plus 260. I mean, Drew Ann at plus 315, maybe, but I don't know. How many goals are they going to score? 3? 4? I don't know if I'm trying to really take goal scorers with that team right now.
No, I mean, Caulfield's struggling. I mean, I'm kind of disappointed with what we've seen from him. I mean, he's someone that we thought would have a pretty big year for the Canadiens. Just hasn't happened. He hasn't scored he scored 1 goal against Washington, but 1 goal in since the beginning, late October. That's it for a guy like Cole Caulfield. I can't explain why he's having so much of a struggle right now. Suzuki, has struggled. He's got 1 goal since December the 7th. I'd actually look at Mike Hoffman if I were to pick someone from Montreal. He's actually someone that's found the back of the net recently. for the Montreal Canadiens. Last game, actually, he scored for them. So if you had to pick someone, that's who I'd pick. Mike Hoffman for the Montreal Canadiens in that one. But
He's a sniper. He's a sniper.
Yep, tough. You're right in terms of because the ones you want to back from a goal scoring prop standpoint is Caulfield and Suzuki, guys like that in particular, and yet they have definitely not been good in terms of their current form at the moment offensively. All right, the rest of the games are night games. Philadelphia, New York Islanders. We've got the Islanders minus 190 home favorites, 5.5 the total, shaded to the under in this game. The Flyers continue to just spin their wheels. 7 straight losses for them. How's the Mike Yeo experiment working out as the interim coach? Not so great right now. 3-2 loss to the Rangers. You know, I've actually been in a lot of these games lately. It's not like they've been crushed necessarily, but 3-2 overtime loss to San Jose, 3-2 loss to Boston, 3-2 loss to the Rangers. They just can't get that one extra save. They can't capitalize on that one chance, in a close game right now. That's the difference. Power play can't come through. They can't find a goal when they need it. They can't get a timely save when they need it. That's basically what we're seeing here from the Philadelphia Flyers right now. The New York Islanders, they're coming off a loss to Washington, 2-0 shutout loss. That snapped a 3-game win streak. But then you look at their win streak, and you can poke holes in it. They beat Buffalo, big deal. They beat struggling Edmonton, can't get out of their own way right now. They're in a free fall, the Oilers. You can't even get all that excited about that win right now with the way the Oilers are playing. And then the other win was New Jersey. So, the Islanders have been sort of beating up on the weak lately. They're laying a big number. They're laying a number that I'm not comfortable laying with in terms of the Islanders. Martin Jones is in net for the Flyers here in this game. And obviously that concerns me, and there's no way I could back Philly here. They're struggling. Martin Jones with a 3.33 goals against average, 909 save percentage. He had a really good start against a couple of starts ago. He played pretty well against Seattle. But before that, he gave up 3 to Ottawa, gave up 3 to Arizona, and 5 to LA in a recent start as well. So, that's Martin Jones. He'll give you one good start every 5 or 6. That's essentially what you get. And then the rest of them are absolute, below average goaltending from him. So, but again, the Islanders are not an offensive juggernaut. They're still having trouble finding the back of the net consistently. They've dragged everyone into an under, it seems right now. All over the place with this game. It's a pass for me. Alex, anything here? Flyers, Islanders.
I'm going to take a shot here with the Islanders in regulation minus $1.20. And if there's anyone who's, not one bit shocked about the Flyers going on a losing streak now under Mike Yeo, it's definitely me. 8 games in a row. It's like that probably could continue 9, 10, 11 more games. This is a Flyers team that they had that kind of momentum rolling. And now, like I said, when they tried to play up tempo, they started getting crushed with it. And now they're losing these games. Like I said, they're hanging around with teams like Boston, the Rangers. Okay, some quality competition. You get crushed by Pittsburgh, San Jose, up and down teams. So like I said, they're not the worst losses ever, but I think this is a team just like they were before they made the coaching change. They just, when they get into that headspace, they start losing games, start gripping the sticks a little too tight, making too many passes, not shooting the puck cleanly. They get into these long stretches of losing. So it's more of a fade on Philly, but I'm going to lay that $1.20 with the Islanders.
Yeah, that's probably the bet I would look to make if I was the closest I'd probably come to making a bet on this game would probably be that Islanders in regulation. Andrew, what do you think here? Philly, New York Islanders.
This is a game I passed in, but I will say this: I'm looking to buy on the Islanders coming up here, guys. They've just had such a weird schedule. They dealt with so much crap during their season. I took a look at their schedule coming up. A couple tough games mixed in, but other than that, there's some decent spots to bet on them. This is one I'd look for, but I'm thinking this is a buy team for me. I'll try and plan ahead for some spots. If they do well here, I expect them to heat up, but this is not a bet that I've made in this game.
By the way, the under makes some sense, but again, with Martin Jones, I don't want any part of an under, but I'd still have to lean that way. Yeah. The Flyers are trending under, the Islanders are trending under. The series history with these two teams recently is trending under as well. I think 4 straight head-to-head games have gone under the total, rather, the Flyers and Islanders. Yeah, 2-1, 3-2, 3-2, 1-0. Those have been the scores. So feels like a low-scoring game here. Would still lean that way, even with the concerns about Jones and net for Philadelphia here. Nashville, St. Louis. We've got St. Louis minus 130, home favorites, 6 the total. in this game. The Blues finally had a regulation loss at home. It had been a while. It had been a long while since we had seen one. It happened Saturday night, 6-5 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And really, I like Toronto in regulation a little bit in that game. I mentioned it Saturday that, I just felt the Blues were just much too banged up, in terms of who was out and who was missing for them in that game. We're talking about multiple critical components to the St. Louis Blues hockey team that were missing in that game. Buchnevich, Tarasenko, Perron, Braden Shen, Colton Parayko. But some terrific news for the Blues. Everybody but Buchnevich is pretty much cleared from protocol for this game tonight. So the Blues are going to have Vladimir Tarasenko and David Perron and Braden Shen and Colton Parayko back for this game tonight. So it's going to be a much stronger, much more closer to full strength St. Louis Blues hockey team tonight. And I like them in this spot. They're only laying -130. They've been very good at home throughout the course of the year. Still, even after that loss, the St. Louis Blues are still 12-0-1 in their last 13 games on home ice and 15-4-2 at home overall this year. They're in a bounce-back spot. Craig Berube wasn't thrilled with their game. Now, they said we were pretty depleted Saturday night, but they still didn't like the way they played. They felt, even with the guys out, we should have played better than that. It was one of our worst games in a while. I'd expect them to be better tonight. They get a lot of reinforcements back. And don't you dare look now, but suddenly Nashville, is coming back to the pack just a little bit. I'm not saying they're going to fall, completely off, but because they've only lost 2 in a row. But back-to-back losses to Buffalo and Boston in overtime over the weekend. After a 5-game win streak. No, they're still playing some very good hockey. And the one concern is they've dominated St. Louis. They've won 5 straight over the St. Louis Blues. And that does concern me here. I don't usually like going against series history that strong where one team has really owned the other. And Nashville has gotten the better of St. Louis head-to-head. But Blues are really good at home. I expect a much better game from them. They're getting Perron, Tarasenko, Shen, and Parayko on the blue line back. Price is reasonable. I'm going to take St. Louis here, -125 in this one. Alex, Predators and Blues.
Yeah, it should be an interesting game. I mean, there's the two teams, clawing and fighting in that Central Division. Like you said, the Blues have been dynamite at home, but finally did suffer a loss. And you look at with Nashville back-to-back losses. That game against Boston, we saw it going to overtime. 2 of the last 3 games for Nashville have gone to overtime. And you look at this series history, 3 of the last 7 have gone to overtime. Of the 4 that didn't, 2 of those were 1-goal games. So I'm going to be going with a draw here, +350. I think this is going to be a balanced effort from both teams. I could definitely see this one going into overtime or a shootout.
All right, and congrats to Alex for a great call with Nashville and Boston on Saturday, the draw in that game. That got to overtime after a sluggish start for Nashville, but they battled back. The thing that really concerns me here for Nashville is Matthias Ekholm on the blue line is a significant absence. He's very, very good both ends of the ice, very solid. He didn't play against Boston. He's in COVID protocol, probably will miss tonight as well. And, of course, Philip Forsberg, you never like to be without him, but, the guy was really starting to cook for the Nashville Predators before his recent COVID protocol situation, and he's still on it. Right now. And, he's missed the last 4. I don't think he's coming back tonight. He had scored 4 goals in the last 3 games before his absence. So very, very tough time for Philip Forsberg to be absent because he was playing very well for the Predators. And I think St. Louis can pick up this victory tonight. We've got Melissa in our chat. Of course, we saw her as a special guest on the Ice Guys just recently on a Saturday, saying that Marc-Andre Fleury confirmed in net for the Chicago Blackhawks. So no rest for Marc-Andre Fleury. Flower power will be present in Seattle at the Emerald City for that Blackhawks Kraken game. Andrew, what do you think here with Nashville St. Louis?
Look, guys, I've been wrong about the Nashville Predators. Today is apology day for me with the Nashville Predators. And I think, Jimmy, I saw some tweets from him saying the exact same thing. But the fact of the matter is sometimes you just never learn your lesson, because today I'm fading them one more time here. I'm on the Blues. I think it's a good price for them. Injuries for Nashville. I don't think the schedule is going to be too kind to them coming up here. And you can't go look at this St. Louis Blues team and their record at home and go against them right now, and the way they're putting up goals at home too. So I think Nashville has struggled scoring tonight, and they've been an over machine recently. But if they can't get 3 or 4, I think St. Louis takes this Also, if your book offers it, this game in particular, over 1.5 power play goals plus 120. It's a prop I've looked at. I know DraftKings, you can look at power play points for certain teams, but you notice both these two teams, they do some damage in the power play.
Yeah, they definitely do. As the St. Louis Blues, this is a better offensive team, I think, for the St. Louis Blues than even when they won the Stanley Cup a few years. When Craig Berube took over early in the season, they ended up, going all the way and winning the Stanley Cup. I actually think this year's group's got more firepower than that group. That group might have been better defensively a little bit, I would say so. But I mean, in terms of offensive ability, I think this team's better than that one. I mean, especially and getting Buchnevich from the Rangers is a big part of that. He's had a nice season for the Blues, so their ability to put the puck in the net, I think, is definitely improved compared to recent seasons. All right, the final game of this Martin Luther King Day Monday NHL slate. It's a good one. Pittsburgh Penguins, Vegas Golden Knights. We've got even money, minus 110 both sides in this game, 6 the total, pretty much across the board. Of course, for Vegas, it's who's going to play for them because they've been sort of, backed again to being shorthanded. They had finally gotten healthy, a few weeks ago, and now all of a sudden they've got, multiple key players out again. Max Pacioretty, Alec Martinez, William Carrier, among others. Looks like they will get Nicholas Waugh, Nolan Patrick, a couple of their depth bottom 6 forwards back, so that's a positive for the Golden Knights going into this game. But they've obviously been battling, with a shorthanded roster here the last few games, and it's kind of shown in their results. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games. Winnipeg, Nashville, Chicago, and Toronto. The only win was the 5-1 victory over the Rangers. So just 1-4 in their last 5 games, Vegas. But, back-to-back home losses for them. They're at home here. They've had almost a week off. Certainly are going to be fresh, well-rested. They get some practice time in. They had at least a couple players back. It seems like it's that spot bettor's dream, situational bettor's dream here, Vegas. They are in a phenomenal spot here. But that being said, Pittsburgh's playing good hockey. It's not easy to want to go against the Penguins at the moment. They get the 2-1 win against San Jose in overtime in their last game. They had that bad third period against LA, and they lost that game 6-2. But outside of that, they've done a pretty good job on this West Coast swing, winning the first 2 of 3. They've got, it looks like Zach Aston Reese, Stanton Heinen, and Jason Zucker as the guys that may not play here tonight for the Penguins. But outside of that, relatively healthy group in this game. It's a tricky one for me because I expect Vegas to certainly play a much better game, focused effort, 2 losses in a row at home, time off, well rested. I think they'll be jumping. I think they'll be flying here in this game. Pittsburgh, the first period puck line is kind of cooled off, after that terrific run it had. I still think Pittsburgh's a little bit healthier than Vegas. I like the way they're playing. I'm not necessarily rushing to go against them. And of course, they just recently got Malkin back. Tough game, but a good game. I'm looking forward to it. Slightest of leans to Pittsburgh. Maybe if you like the over first period, this is definitely one where I prefer the first period over compared to the full game over. I think it could slow down, but the first period, you got a fresh Vegas team off for 6 days, live legs, wanting to come out strong and fast, maybe after 2 straight losses. And of course, Pittsburgh, we know that offensively with Malkin back, they're a little bit stronger as well. So I think the goals could come early in this game, not so much later. So this could be one where I specifically target first period over 1.5 compared to the full game. Alex, what do you think here? Penguins, Golden Knights.
I totally agree. Even though you got to lay about $1.35, $1.40, I feel like first period over is a good spot. Like I said, I think we're going to get a good effort in the first 20 minutes of play. Maybe not so much a high-scoring affair for the full contest. So if that first period over hits, then you might be in line to get a great live under play as well. So that's something to kind of take advantage of. As far as sides go, like I said, it's going to be a good spot for Vegas, but with some of the issues and injuries they're having and Pittsburgh playing well, I'm sure they want to try to end this road trip well with a nice win, and that'd be a big win for them to beat Vegas. But this seems like it could be back and forth enough where I'm just going to stay away from it, just look toward the first period over.
Yeah, and a little bit of line juggling for Peter DeBoer. He's going to have Marchessault, Nicholas Waugh on the top line center spot, and Nolan Patrick on the top line. Remember, this guy's a first-round pick talent, Nolan Patrick, and he's just had injuries. He's never been able to.
He went ahead of Cale Makar.
Yeah, that's look at that. In retrospect, there's always those situations in the draft where it's like, how did you take that guy over that guy when he was available?
Did you guys hear about what was going on in the media? The Philadelphia guys were saying, they were like, yeah, we didn't even want All the scouts wanted McCarr.
Oh, yeah, Bobby Clark throwing Ron Hextall under the bus, saying, we're trying to tell old Ronnie there that we didn't want to draft Nolan Patrick in that spot, but he insisted on it. Oh, it's not like Bobby Clark had a sparkling resume as a GM. He never found a goalie that ever did anything in Philly. And, it's not like his GM track record was all that phenomenal. Did you win anything, Bob Clark? When you were the GM of the Flyers? No. So, that's throwing stones. That's pot calling the kettle black right there, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, maybe Hextall made a mistake there. Bob Clark hasn't made mistakes as GM when he was there 20 years ago as the GM of the Flyers. Come on. I mean, you can dish it out, but you can't take it. That's sometimes what I think when it's a situation like that. But, Vegas, they're tinkering with the lines. Dodonov, Carlson, and Smith going to be the second line. Mark Stevenson on the third line, dropping him down a little bit with Mark Stone, which is bizarre. They're going to have Mark Stone on a third line role here. If I'm seeing that correctly, it's definitely the blender out tonight for Vegas in terms of their forward lines. Oh, I do want to mention, and I forgot earlier, Brian Rust back tonight for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's missed the last 4 games. He was on fire, this guy, before he got injured or before he was absent. He was definitely playing terrific offensively. So that top line, Jake Gensel, Sidney Crosby, Brian Rust is reunited tonight for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Andrew, what do you think here, Pittsburgh, Vegas?
Look, I think that I've kind of changed my stance on this game. I'm not flip-flopping the side I like since the start of the day, but I really liked Pittsburgh to start the day. And I don't like Vegas, but I'll tell you what, I like the under more in this game. And there was money pouring in on the over. I think this is a low-scoring game. I know Pittsburgh's been on the road. They've definitely been battle tested a little bit. That game they had last against San Jose. Look, I talked about San Jose early in the show already. They're a team that it doesn't matter to me if you win 2-1 or if you win 5-1. The Pittsburgh Penguins find a way to win games. And right now, things haven't been that great. If you look at the last 10, 15 games for Vegas, all over the place. And a lot of people I'm seeing in a lot of write-ups I've read and articles talking about how the rest might be a good thing for the Vegas Golden Knights tonight. I'm not so sure it will be against a team as good defensively as the Pittsburgh Penguins are. You make one mistake, one turnover, they'll make you pay. Jake Gensel has a point in 8 of his last 20 games played. These guys are the real deal. I think if Tristan Jarry will make or break this team in the playoffs this year. And at the price we're getting in this game, I just don't get how we can't play Pittsburgh. And maybe it's a trap. I mean, you guys tell me, but I don't know. Like, I think there's so many different scenarios, and I get it. It could be a bet on spot, but look at the teams that Vegas has played recently. It's been tough for them, but can it get better tonight against Pittsburgh? I don't know. I feel like Vegas needs to beat down a bad team to get some swagger back.
Yeah, it's just which Vegas is it going to be? Vegas that lost to Toronto and really strong. I mean, the shootouts, the fact that game went to a shootout was flattering for Vegas.
Exactly.
They could have lost that game in reg. They lost to Chicago. They lost to Nashville at home. They lost to Winnipeg at home. Really, the one game they played well and earned the win and they outplayed them was the Rangers. They did play a really good game that night and beat the Rangers 5-1. So they're capable. They showed you in that game against the Rangers, even with the players that are out currently for the Golden Knights, they can play well against a good team at home. But is tonight going to be that night? Because they've also had some clunkers against good teams with this shorthanded, depleted roster that they've got at the moment. So it's a great game, fascinating. But I'm with you, Andrew. I mean, I would only look Pittsburgh, and I think I said that. I would only look Pittsburgh here, even though it feels like Vegas might be sitting on a better performance tonight with the 6-day break. Going into it. But good game to wrap up the Monday card. Before we get to best bets, 158 live viewers on YouTube right now. Make sure you hit the like button. We appreciate that quite a bit. And a reminder, DraftKings Sportsbook. We're on to the divisional round now of the NFL playoffs. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, celebrating with a huge odds boost for new customers. Counting down to Super Bowl 56, new customers can get 56-1 odds on any team. Bet just $5 on that team and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. If the DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the action in the divisional round and play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy football contests. DraftKings giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN, and get 56-1 odds on any NFL team this weekend in the divisional round. Bet just $5 on that team and win $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code THPN for 56-1 odds at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years of age or older, must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app. Sign up for an account. Use the promo code THPN. All right, best bets to wrap up this Monday edition of the Ice Guys show. Great to have all these day games. Looking forward to watching them all unfold, especially Minnesota, Colorado, which is just minutes away. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, we'll go with my latest play on the card, and that's the Nashville-St. Louis game. We'll take the regulation draw at plus 350. These two teams are evenly matched, and the last time they played, they win the OT. 2 of the last 3 games for Nashville have also gone past 60 minutes. So getting some good price here, good value with 2 Central Division teams that should be slugging it out. So let's go Preds, Blues, regulation draw plus 350. That's my best bet tonight.
All right, there you go. Nashville, St. Louis draw plus 350. Looking for a little overtime action here with the Predators and Blues. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. Andrew, best bet.
I'm going to go with the Canadiens. I might as well do it. I haven't bet on them in a long, long time. They're playing in 1 hour here against the Coyotes, and they're plus 115. Give me the Habs.
There you go. Montreal. Au Canadien for Andrew McInnis. Montreal plus 115. Best bet for Andrew on this Monday slate. Mine's going to be St. Louis. I'm going to go with the Blues here tonight. They're getting healthier. They've been magnificent at home. They're off a rare, poor performance at home, and I think they take care of business here in spite of Nashville getting the better of St. Louis in recent head-to-head meetings. I think that changes tonight. St. Louis minus 125 against Nashville for my best bet. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. We appreciate it. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith and Andrew McInnis, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday. Enjoy the rest of Martin Luther King Day. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Tuesday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.